I have let you niggas call me a thief for 3 years and counting now, and I've never sent a cease and desist to the same lawyer that made y'all sign the bogus paperwork. I've never sent over anything saying stop that shit or else we're gonna go to court. Because you can't go to court. You can't say these things and not be able to prove it. That's a court case. But I'm not doing that. I'm not doing
Do
it.
Roy and Maul kick
Joe,
back any money from their podcast to you anymore, or at all?
No,
Have they
I
ever?
have no dealings with their podcast. That was more courtesy, more nice gesture from Joe. Go
All right.
be free, disgruntled workers.
time they were one of their complaints is like you always shut down some of their creative ideas or you just laugh at it.
Oh, that's another one of the narratives. I've heard that one before. Y'all are talking about just horribly executed segments or just bad topics. I don't think that's the same as your voice being suppressed or you not being able to improve on the show. Anybody could have brought any idea at any time. And I don't even think I have to really speak for that. I think that everyone's work ethic eventually reveals itself.
It seems like they did have their podcast kind of hold ground for a little bit.
What does that have to do with what I'm saying?
It speaks to the work ethic. It speaks to like things being revealed. It gets kind of almost like you're saying there was no work ethic from them and that they didn't do much and it kind of succeeded based on just kind of that's how it can come off sometimes.
No, they succeeded because they were talented in the system and they have their own talents. Like I'm not trying to say that. We did something that was remarkable together. We all did that. But there's more to it than that, as I'm sure you're learning now. There's so much more to it than sitting down and being a bright personality. So I think I'm talking to the broader scope of it. I'm talking like you your coworkers can't punch on each other.
Pretty
You
much like
also can't have the same like I don't want to sit here and get to critiquing a whole bunch of shit that's none of my business. But there are many things happening that just let you know that it's bull at play. Like it's play. It's still play time. See, it was play time for them when we was doing all that world changing shit. And because it was world changing shit, that was like the scapegoat. Like, dog, this is the hottest thing smoking. So why do we have to do anything more than we're doing? It was never play time with me. And that line is hard to draw when you're working with your friends. But nothing about this is play for me. I don't have time for the tardiness. I don't have time for the lack of input, the lack of substance. I don't have time for unthought out takes. I don't have time for the disregard of co-hosts. I don't have time for weaponizing the audience. I don't have time. It's not play time. This is a very small window in time where creators, especially black creators, have a viable, foreseeable route to change their lives and their families' lives. This is not playtime for me.
Joe Budden airs out his creative differences with Rory and Mal and also talks about why he hasn't sued them or why he's, I don't know, it's just a lot of scuttlebutt. Go look that word up. Well, this audio is from a space I did not too long ago where Joe Budden broke down kind of the creative differences that sprouted up between the three men that would create a cultural phenomenon known as the Joe Budden podcast with Rory and Mal. See, this is a fascinating deep dive into the dynamics that make or break something special. And why this particular clip was fascinating was because this really showed us that there was really big issues between the three men that halted creative, progress. I know for a fact, because Rory and Moss said it in their Vulture article, that they felt like Joe Budden bogarted the creative control of the Joe Budden podcast with Rory and Maul. Like he was the one who would not allow certain segments to happen. He would not allow, you know, if somebody brought a segment, he would often sandbag it. But Joe Budden submits that that is not the case. He offers that, hey man, I let you bring segments in, but the way you approached them was haphazard, lackadaisical. You were half stepping, so why would I commit to it? And it's hard to tell who was, well, I don't think it's that hard to tell. I think Joe Budden is just a maniacal genius. And if it doesn't work for him, he's not going to feel it. And you even see that with the way he commentates on the Rory and Mal podcast currently. Remember when Eden punched up on Julian? It seemed like Joe Budden had a lot of thoughts about that. And if you remember, if you were in the spaces around that time, Joe Budden was using that like a needle to poke at the Mixie boys. So much so that Joe would be called out for being a bit hypocritical somewhat when Rory would say, you want to talk about my lawsuit, but let's talk about the lawsuit you had with a certain former co-host on the Joe Budden Network. And I think the representation in the two shows now tell you all you need to know about why they weren't getting along back then. For example, I don't think the new Joe Budden podcast really has anybody doing stuff for them, right? It's kind of like whatever Joe wants goes. Like, is anybody on that couch, Ish Ice, Melissa Ford, are they producing segments? Yeah, they can bring up topics, but it's not necessarily encouraged. Meanwhile, you look at New Rory and Mal, a lot of people are going to say I'm glazing, but it does look like they are, the co-hosts that is, are allowed to bring ideas forward. They're very much featured in the branding of the show, right? Damaris, Julian, even Eden when he was there, they were in the skits. They were in the thumbnails, featured prominently as if they were more than just co-hosts. So you're seeing a lot go on. And many say, Danny, why don't you let this go? Well, this is an ever-flowing situation that none of the parties have let go. And when I was on the spaces, December, all the way till now, it struck me like these people still think about this moment in time for a lot of their time. It just doesn't make sense to stop speaking about this. This is like not talking about the Lakers when they had Kobe and Shaq to me. We still have to break down. We still have to analyze. And the Rory Mal Joe Budden podcast will allow us to maybe think about the creative ventures we engage in. I know seeing all these podcasts break up made me think I can never be part of a operation where I'm just a part of the show. Like, I would need to have my own situation, and then maybe I could join someone as like some type of side gig. But as far as my stuff, I could never just be heavily invested into something that is controlled by other people. I think a lot of us have to make that decision. Because a lot of people who follow this channel are people who are part of an ensemble and they create content together. This is something that repeats over and over. Jesus and Mero, Gilly and Dev, Call Me Daddy. Podcasts just always breaking up. And it's often for the same reasons. Creative control, the accounting. All of this is happening over and over and over again. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you feel Joe Budden stifled the creativity of Rory and Mal? Rory and Mal skits are pretty hilarious still. They don't do them often enough though. Maybe Joe Budden's work ethic is what kept Rory and Mal honest. Joe Budden did attempt at doing a skit and it was actually decent. And it was funny enough because Rory and Mal did a similar skit to them and Joe Budden did something like that a little bit later. But only time will tell, and we will see how the history of the show gets defined by both parties. Alright, y'all. Follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.